So I have just published a book about 5-6 months ago called Speaking from Within. And I wanted to do a little presentation of the book since it also covers 30 years of the CCCL story. The idea of this book was born out of years seeing how learning happens when people from different cultures, nations, continents, background truly meet, and how despite the global challenges, connection and interculturality, curiosity can still thrive. My inspiration came from the participants at the CCCL programs who were either adults or young people, and who were encouraging me after every lecture to say, is there a book? There should be a book. And I was sometimes trying to avoid this question because it meant that you have to sit down while I'm running all over the places and write. So my friends also, family members, colleagues, were also behind this idea. And I remember you were one of them, Harras, who was like, this should be written. You shouldn't let this go. So thank you all, because thanks to that, the book is out now. So throughout my experience as a hosting institution in Morocco, I found that the voice of the hosts, us, is barely heard in the field of study abroad or intercultural learning. Yes, sometimes it's through the students or the participants' perspectives that they speak about their experience in Morocco, and they describe the hosting culture and what they've learned and how their family live, etc. And that's wonderful. But I always found it was not enough. So when I was visiting and participating in conferences abroad and talking to the institutions that send in people, I was always saying, how about our voice? We never have a workshop. We never have a conference where we're invited to speak about our perspective as Moroccans, as hosts. So I tried to fill this gap, hopefully trying to give a voice to the host families, to the people who work with these guests, and hoping that this could be, hoping that the host could actually be able to speak about themselves. We can speak about ourselves, not only the vision or the perspective of our students or participants, but who are we? How do we live our lives? How can we do that? And some of my lectures address this, but there was nothing written. So I'm hoping that this could open a new trend where the host cultures, because it's our fault also, and it's our responsibility as hosts to speak about what we learn, what we do. So as I was growing up in the field of cross-culture, I became confident that the learning happens two ways. And that's why actually my book could not have been written without the stories of the people we are hosting. They are the ones that nurtured my knowledge, my passion for the work I do. Without them, I would not have been able to write what I wrote. Speaking from Within explores through real life stories the human need to get to learn from each other, to open up and be open to constantly challenge one's preconceived notions about the other. It is about stories of people relearning how to listen to one another across differences and how transformed they become thanks to this encounter. A transformation that can be a bridge, not a border. Through the book, I tried to give an inside perspective of who we are as Moroccan, but it's actually my perspective, because I believe that even as Moroccans, we have hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of perspectives. So if you don't find your perspective as Moroccans in my book, it's just even better, because it means there are more perspectives and we're not having one. And as Moroccans, we too need the same process of crossing cultures and learning from one another. And it's not only a question of tribalism or language multilingualism or being from different parts. It's maybe in the same family that this is happening. So through my perspective, I speak about my experience as a woman, as a practitioner, as a human being who wanted to share what I have learned through 30+ years in the field of cross-cultural learning. The reflections on identity, or identities even, as well as the frustrations, the challenges, and at times the satisfactions during these encounters are what I wanted to convey in these chapters through my narration. It is not a sociological, nor a philosophical, nor an anthropological, or not even a fiction. It is rather a series of non-fiction narrative essays filled with true lived stories, including mine, using some techniques of fictional style, as well as incorporating some storytelling elements, aiming at engaging the reader while informing them about real-life events, people, or historical moments. The book is divided into 11 chapters, organized under themes related to Morocco, the way I tried to explain them in my sessions to non-Moroccans mainly, but also to Moroccans. My book promotes dialogue and highlights the importance of a shared humanity in an age of division, an age or an era or a time where we are facing fragmentation, polarization, misunderstanding, misinformation, inequalities, conflicts, environmental, political, and social crises. And in times like this, empathy becomes the first casualty. In times like this, humility, intercultural humility, becomes not a luxury, but a necessity that invites us to slow down, to listen across difference, to see the world not only through our own lenses, but through those of others, and to learn with the other, not about the other. A co-learning, a co-creating, a co-innovating. All of this requires not intercultural competence. When I was being trained, we were always telling us you have to be interculturally competent. I don't like that. I think it doesn't require that intercultural competence, but rather intercultural humility, because it's humility that is about lifting others and recognizing our shared humanity, of course, not without critical thinking. I'm hoping my book could be an invitation to keep learning from one another and to remember that curiosity, humility, and empathy are still the best tools we have to face the world ahead. In a time when walls, visible and invisible, are rising again, learning between cultures is an act of hope. Listening to each other is a dream to hope for. I'm going to read two pieces from the book. I don't know why I selected them. Now I look at them, I'm like, oh, it's okay. But anyway, one of them is part of the introduction. It says, we tend to think that our culture, religion, race, gender, and who we are better than others, and we often harm other people with this. We believe that we hold the only existing truth, that of being the more knowledgeable about science, religion, arts, laws, because of our material wealth, or for being privileged by a given status, or being a heterosexual male, or having power over communities or groups of people. All these beliefs are challenged and deconstructed during the cross-cultural journey that one takes to learn to accept otherness and live with it. This is just a short. The other one is a story. I often share with my students my experience when I was about their age and spent a year in Vermont in the USA. I was asked to tick a box in a form handed to me about what race I belonged to. I had never been asked to select my race. nor speak about that side of my identity. While there might be nothing wrong with it, and that the purposes may be positive, I actually felt annoyed with such a question and did not know how to answer it or why I should be asked that question. I clearly was as rebellious as they are when they come to our programs and refused to tick any box besides that of choosing whether I was a man or a woman, which nationality, and so on. I felt uncomfortable, did not speak the language fluently then, and had no idea why this would be important. I was then guided through the answer, they told me what to say, to decide whether I was Caucasian, which for me was Europe, and I was not from there, or African, which I was from, but did not meet all the criteria then. Yet, it was decided then that I was Black because of my curly hair and the geographical situation of my country. And now, it was decided that I was Caucasian because of the same geographical situation, which falls under the MENA region, thus more Middle Eastern and North African than African. Who knows in which new category I will fall when the geopolitics of the region decide about the new changes to occur. My students feel outraged to hear that people were touching my hair, asking if it were real back in the 90s in the USA. I really did not consider it to be inappropriate, and I was flattered that my hair, that was a source of insecurity when I was a teenager, became a source of interest and praise. My recommendation to my students is not to let anyone intimidate them, but instead take any opportunity to learn for themselves and from others about their own selves. Be open-minded to anything new and question the new things, but also the old ones they know. There is so much to be gained from discomfort, and there is so much to be learned from differences. I want them to reach the highest level of understanding possible from their experience so they can feel strong and competent/humble, as well as happy and confident in themselves. Thank you very much.